I'm Michael Silver.
I'm Stephanie Thomas. Michael Silver is my husband.
I just became a patron for the Biennale.
I'm a patron of the Stellenbosch Triennale.
I'm in the mining and chemical industry, so my life has always touched on African countries because of the mineral deposits. My great-great-grandfather had two sons, one of whom went to Los Angeles, where my family's been for 100 years. The other one went to Cape Town. So I have this distant group of relatives here that I didn't discover until I decided to move here and was told by one of my cousins. And then a very, very dear friend of mine who's a British Kenyan moved to Cape Town and brought me here. So I feel these multiple levels of connection to the area, and people who don't go to Southern California from South Africa don't realize it's identical. Everything about this ecosystem is identical to Southern California. The example I give, which is just crazy to me personally, is you learn as a small child about the Indians that are indigenous to Los Angeles. They survived on the coast on sea urchin and abalone. And then you come here and go on a tour and you discover that the indigenous people that lived on the coast lived on sea urchin and abalone. Where else could you have that same connection? So there's just parallel universes between the two locations, and I just felt so at home here. That's what brought me. Stephanie and I try to be helpful wherever we can. And we try to support anything we can that is going to bring a brighter vision to the places where we live and think of as our community. So when I was given the opportunity by Andy Norton, we were excited. We're actually searching for opportunities to do helpful things in the arts, education, and also in the sciences, which is something I'm involved with commercially. So I would add that given that the Triennale is essentially new and its goals are pretty huge because it hopes to become a well-recognized art fair long-term, we have an opportunity to support something at the beginning, and that's pretty exciting. We just thought that would be a phenomenal challenge, and so that's what kind of got us rolling. I'm a recent member of the community here and thought we would get involved and try to make our contribution, so we became a patron and been involved with Andy and Alana and the various people that are putting the show together, the fair together. And I think Stellenbosch is a wonderful location for an art fair too, of course. The art world has evolved to de-emphasizing galleries, de-emphasizing dealers, and very much emphasizing fairs. So in order for the galleries to survive and for the dealers to survive, they all have fair kind of programs and tours. It's very, very difficult for anyone to go to the galleries you want to go to, even if you're willing to go to the cities where they're located. But when you go to a fair, you can see what everyone offers. There's always the social aspect and the parties, so you really can communicate with people, meet the artists, meet the dealers. I think fairs have become the way, and they are really now the most important aspect of the art world right now in terms of collecting. If you're focused on nothing but collecting, the fair is everything. It's a different take on the art that's produced out of America and Europe, and every bit as good. And so Stephanie and I got very, very excited about this interesting kind of parallel take on the development of art history, and got very active trying to collect, pretty much a lexicon of everything that's been accomplished down here. It's an incredible art community that's been an incredible art community since what we think of as modern art was first created. There are parallel artists in South Africa going all the way back to the mid-1800s that parallel the works of the great European and American artists. Many of them are every bit as good. For example, you have an Irma Stern as an expressionist. You have a number of phenomenal artists that came through the 20s, 30s, and 40s. And then as you get to more contemporary periods, there's artists in South Africa that parallel all the great artists through the history of contemporary art. And they're pretty much all unsung. And to see what can be produced in a region with this much diversity is incredible.
So many speak to me, but currently at the moment I would have to say sculptures. It is something that we've been collecting on the farm for the last 3 or 4 years. And I think that has brought me more joy than most of the other mediums currently, because it's so attached to the farm as well. Michael has a way with these sculptures of placing them in such a beautiful way that it's so much more than just the sculpture. It is, it's part of the farm, but it's part of the farm in its own life. Like it's the way it interacts with the weather, the light, the sun, the moon. It just seems, it's just so beautiful. I don't know what to say, I don't know.
This is a absolutely gorgeous work by the artist Liddell Moe. She's a professor at University of Stellenbosch, and she's been producing work for quite a number of years. She works in concrete, and all of her works have this certain spiritual quality, often tied to female issues of spirituality. As you can see, this work has that character to it. This work is also very similar to a show she did quite a few years ago, maybe 6 years ago, at Massachusetts MoCA, which is in Boston. She had a retrospective there and did similar pieces to this. I fell in love with that work, got to know her, and we acquired one sculpture of hers, which is in another part of the farm, and then acquired this as a second sculpture. And we're actually now working on a third sculpture. Liddell Moe, who's maybe in the shot behind me, I don't know if she is. Again, there's a person that just has so much spirit and is so interesting and just a firecracker of a personality. You just love her the moment you meet her. And her works are deeply spiritual. They reflect a way of thinking and a way of feeling that you're touched by them every time you look at them. And even in the different lights, the sun may hit them a different way and you get a whole different feeling, just internally and personally. The farm, the area that we're putting sculptures in is about 25 acres. And so each piece has to have its own line of sight, its own sense of place, and it takes a lot of space actually to give a sculpture that breathing room that they really need. Say you'd never seen that sculpture before. You'd have a sense of what this thing's going to look like when you walk up to it, right? I don't know if when you go look at it, you realize it doesn't look you almost see this other dimension coming off the back, right? Isn't that something? It's just the light, the way it hits it. So the placement creates this incredible effect so that you have multiple sculptures in a sense, depending on where the sun's located. It's pretty incredible. It's ever changing. And then you also have the aspect that if you come here and just like stand right here and kind of emphasize in your eye the hole, walk parallel to the left. So you get this changing view behind through the hole that also changes the impact of the sculpture in different ways. Another one who I just think has an abstract aesthetic that's just off the charts incredible is a guy named Abdus Salam. But there's a high level of spirituality in his work, again, that are fantastic, and he's currently producing these works where he carves stones into looking like soft objects, and then he stacks them so it looks almost like pieces of dough laid upon each other, but he goes out there in the yard and trims and cuts these stones in these incredible shapes. So I haven't collected one of those yet, but I hope to get one of those. And I'd say the third one is another person who just, again, in abstraction, just has an eye that's just nonstop amazing, and his work is evolving in a really neat way. Is a guy named Kyle Moreland, who's represented by Blank Projects. Just a phenomenal artist. So, I mean, there's many others. I don't mean to leave anyone out. We've collected quite a few people, but those are three that I just think I want to follow their careers. They're just brilliant. I'd also note there is a art island that was very inspirational to me in Japan called Nashima. And in Nashima, the family, the Benesse publishing family that built it said, we are going to create the perfect integration of art, the environment, and architecture as one singular piece. And so I tried to bring that to the farm, where we're not just presenting a piece of art, but it sits in a context so that the architecture, the natural flora and fauna, whatever's around it, all kind of works together as a single unit. So it takes a lot of space to actually accomplish that. So at the moment, you know, I'd say we'd be able to go up and do it beautifully, maybe another 8 to 10 sculptures on the property, and that'll be it. And we're going to take our time doing it. So I said this whole thing's like this giant tree house to me, and I'm 12 years old, and I get to have enough land and stuff to build my, you know, all my tree houses. Yeah, my
dream tree house.
Yeah, exactly. I like to get educated. I think that's the most important thing. And that's another amazing aspect of the South African community here. There's a bit of a opaqueness to trying to understand what various galleries and museums are trying to accomplish in Los Angeles and New York, definitely. Where you can spend your time and get up, there's so much happening, and there's so many people with vested interests in promoting various artists that you almost can't trust everybody. And so you find it can be very, very difficult to kind of see the forest for the trees. Whereas here, there's a number of places where you can develop your eye in a really neat way. I'd say one of the top ones would be Strauss, the auction house, Strauss & Company. They're phenomenal. The people that run it are top professionals. They even give you their time. And you can begin to collect out of what they're doing, where they're going in terms of what they want to offer, and gain real serious knowledge. So I try to stay as involved with what Strauss is doing, go to their lectures, and just try to learn. Other galleries that are off the charts, and I don't mean to leave anyone out, would be Jonathan Garnham at Blank Projects, Ashley at What If the World, Lisa at Goodman. You can't find more knowledgeable people around the world. So if you get to be to the point where they want to be friends with you and work with you to collect and show you those things that they think you might enjoy, again, the world kind of opens up to you. And then third, on the museum level, you've got Norval Foundation with incredible, they have a brand new curator that's amazing. Louis himself is amazing. And Zeitz Mocha, we have here in South Africa the curator for the Venice Biennale next year, which couldn't be more exciting, Koyo. So I mean, just the community is where you learn in this place. You can't do it as well anywhere else in the world. It's absolutely incredible, the resources to understand the art market. It's competitive out there. No, it's jump in. Actually, I'd go the other way. I'd say it's exciting. It's new. It's vibrant. There's so much coming out that it's hard to even keep up with what's being created down here. My typical line on collecting art is I purchase art I like by people I like. So the two matter to me a lot. I think that the person's personality is always coming through in the works. And if you find people with troubling personalities, possibly they have troubling work too. And you may find it initially challenging or interesting, but as you get to know the whole package, you may discover that this isn't the road you want to go down. Similarly, I might see some art that I don't quite understand, but once I meet the artist, I totally get it. And I fall in love with the artist, I fall in love with the art, and then I'm on the path to collect that artist. And I like collecting artists that I built that relationship with. So I keep collecting from artists that I want to follow their careers. So that's kind of part of my collecting too. For me personally, fine art gives back to me so many different ways, as do the sciences, but that's another topic. That when you support somebody in the arts, you get the benefit of actually doing a philanthropic thing, which always feels good, and there's good feelings that always come from doing anything that helps another person see the joy in their eyes, knowing where this might go. But when you can also do it in fine art, you have this other layer of beauty and joy that you can be part of. And I just, love being part of the arts, and I love seeing people achieve what they're capable of achieving, if I can somehow support that. And so it's just, for me personally, the perfect combination.